Yes, you can sew buttons on with your Janome sewing machine. The button sewing foot is a foot that is rubberized to kind of grip the buttons as you're stitching. One thing nice about this is it actually has two bars that need to attach to your machine. So if you lift up your foot a little bit higher, slide the foot underneath it, get the back bar up above the foot first, and then you can either lift up and it will click or lower down and it will attach on. So you have to kind of get that back bar on first, then the regular front bar you're used to doing. You also want to lower the feed dogs down and then select a zigzag stitch. You will need to narrow the zigzag to actually be the size you want it to be. What size, you ask? Well, it actually is an optical illusion. Most buttons all use the same size. When you take a small button and a large button and put it over the top of it, you're going to notice that the eyes actually line up. So that's why it's very simple to sew buttons on. Yes, there's some small ones and there's some big ones, but always double check. So a zigzag stitch, I've got it set at 3.5 millimeters, and then we can go ahead and stitch this on. Now, this is a craft-like project here. So I don't need an extra thread shank. I want the button to be stitched directly to the fabric with no extra thread to let something button to it. But if this was going to be for a garment, you do want to take a small straight pin, put it underneath your foot right between the two eyes of the button, and let the thread stitch form over that, and that will give you the thread shank needed for buttoning something on. Remove that when you're done. All right, so what we have here is we want to just test the swing of the needle. Now this is set up to take some locking stitches on one side, so we'll go ahead and stitch here. And then when the needle jumps to the other side, I usually will hand turn and make sure that the button is lined up underneath that second swing of the needle. Once it's jumped, or if you've moved it, make sure it returns to the first hole, and then go ahead and stitch anywhere from 8 to 10 stitches. Once you've done that, you can select the locking stitch and let it finish stitching. Then that way you can really just clip those threads really close. But a great way to make sure that these threads do not come undone is to use some type of seam sealant like fray check or fray block, and go ahead and dab the little threads with some of that glue, and that will keep bond those threads together and they won't ever come off. Who wants to have to sew buttons on after doing all the work of getting them in and on your project already? Now, once you've figured out how to sew buttons on, it's endless. There's other things that you can use this foot for sewing pant hooks, snaps, curtain rings, sequins, anything that needs just a quick little tack down, even some basic little ribbons and bows onto your next project. This is the foot you want to have.